Welcome to another insightful episode of Parent Entrepreneur Power. In this podcast, Mary Catherine Johnson and Evan Johnson highlight the successes and struggles of parents in business. They share how to be the example of success in entrepreneurship to foster the same in your child, and so much more. Are you ready to power up?
Welcome, everybody, to another very exciting episode of Parent Entrepreneur Power. I've got my wonderful co-host / mom with me here today, as always. And we have an exciting guest with us today, Jessica Vidales. Jessica, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So we like to start off by making sure all the audience and everybody's on the same page. So tell us, who are you and what do you do?
I am Jessica, and I am the founder of Making Memories Box. I am a mom of 3, and I have 2 school-aged children, a 10-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son. I also have a toddler who will be 2 on Leap Day, February 29th. Well, it'll be the 8th, technically, this year. And he'll be 2. So I started this business as a way to help other parents like myself who want really fun, exciting ways to engage with their kids at home. But the stress of life and how hard that can be to create those activities is something I wanted to help other parents with. And I spent the last 8 years as an elementary teacher and started out my journey in child development and elementary school. And I really taught kids from first grade all the way through 5th grade. So I feel like that experience was something I had to share with other parents on just how to make things easier and better and more accessible for them at home.
You know, I think this is probably one of the most perfect topics we could possibly have on this podcast, right? Helping parents, helping make their lives easier, helping make their education of their kids or their time with their kids easier. How did you really arrive at this particular product and this particular market? And obviously you're best suited for it as a teacher, but how did you come up with this concept to really say that this is a need I want to fill?
Well, last year I was on my maternity leave, and like I mentioned, he was born February 29th of the year where we all know when everything changed. It was 2 weeks after he was born, everything shut down. My kids' schools were shut down. They were home with me. I didn't have family over helping. Everyone was just kind of figure out, what can we do? What's happening? How long is this going to last? And it was a really hard time for everybody, and having a newborn and not sleeping at night and then having my kids to homeschool during the day was extremely difficult. And even without the newborn, it just became a problem that I felt like needed a better solution. It should not be so hard for parents to have the things they need that schools have readily accessible. Teachers have training, years and years of training and student teaching to get prepared to do these kind of things that we want to do at home. But as parents, we don't have those same tools. And I just happened to be in the position of having the training, knowing how to get the tools, and then wanting to give that to other parents. So I started planning months ahead of time for myself and my own kids. And I think it was December, I started planning for Valentine's Day and just ordering stuff that I wanted to do to surprise them. And I like to do little notes of affirmation and a little heart attack where I cut out hearts and I write things I love about them and put it on their door, and they wake up and they're so excited. And I love doing that stuff for my students and my own kids. But I really watched that joy of childhood kind of leave when they didn't have that stuff at school and they didn't have it at home. And it was just kind of like a running checklist of tasks for them. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to give that to them. And I know a lot of parents were working at home while they were trying to navigate their kids' experience with school and logging in and being behind the computers all day. And the last thing I wanted to do as a parent was to say, okay, you're done with your computer school. Here's your iPad and go be quiet so I can get my work done. But feasibility, I couldn't not work. And I had other kids to care for, like other parents were doing the same. So I started putting these kits together ahead of time where I portioned out like the right amount of paper, the right supplies and tools and glue stick and a Sharpie and a little package of glitter because I didn't want them to have the whole bottle of glitter. And it was just an experience of like, wow, this is really hard. This is really hard to do. And with my training and experience, it was really hard. So I offered to other parents around me, would you be interested in having a kit with all these materials where you can kind of just pull something out of this box and give that experience to your kids without all of the headache of everything beforehand. And the feedback I got from parents was, this is fantastic. We love this. I can't even get my online orders on time anymore, then let alone planning things and then keeping it organized and storing. Like I can order a ream of paper and I use 2 pieces and now I got to store all this paper. That's really where it started, was just trying to help other parents have that same toolkit per se that we have and depend on with school. So.
Wow. And then thinking that and bringing it into now being an entrepreneur yourself. So that, because that's a very big change from the school system to now having to do all of these things. You've had to do your own supplies for a long time. I know that, but going through the school system with the kids, but to actually create this as a business is a very different story. So thinking about that and thinking about your own kids now and the opportunities, they're young, obviously, but the opportunities that they have, how do you see yourself changing your opportunities that you present to them as a parent for their own lives based on the experience you have just starting this thing up?
Right. I think the things that I try to remember, I had no idea what it meant to be an entrepreneur or to be a business owner or to really do anything on my own, to create a startup and to persevere. That was a huge learning experience. I think that my experience parenting and teaching helped prepare me for navigating what was to come with the learning process of a startup and being an entrepreneur. I mean, I was already living a life of like, okay, I'm going to research, I'm going to make a plan, I'm going to test my plan, and I have to accept failure, that plan doesn't always work, and then learn how to push through that. And I feel like that has helped me a lot and applying that just in a different area. So with my kids at home, they weren't in my classroom to see me kind of work through that process. They weren't at my staff development days or my training. They weren't sitting there at college with me while I learned how to do all this. So doing it from home, they really get to see what it means, how to problem solve, and how to apply things they are learning at school to running a business, and why math is important and why people skills is important and why you have to learn to work with a team of people, and how to show and use empathy. I think is huge, to think about other people and how they may be feeling. I mean, starting a business just based on your own feelings isn't enough. You have to think about other people, and just having the mindset of continuous improvements. I am continuously learning. I am continuously making adjustments and saying, how can I make this better? How can I be better? And they watch me learn and they watch me grow. And they're seeing that now where they didn't really get to see that process before. And I've had to learn to talk through my failures with them so I can hopefully instill that failures are a part of growth. And if you look at everyone around you, and this is kind of funny because I'm experiencing this. I told you, MK, about like all the mentors, right? Where you guys look like you're in such a place of certainty and you've been through this process already. But that's how our kids are seeing us, right? They look at us and we have a home, we have a schedule, we're driving, and everything's put together, but really we're still learning too. So I talk through my decision making process with them when it comes to like what do we want to put in here, what do we think would be fun, and just involve them in that. They're fantastic testers. They test all my products for me, so I have great feedback on that. And I think that just really believing in yourself, that you are doing what you're doing for a reason, and if you're not going to do it, who's going to do it, right? Like, just have to get started and one step at a time and believe in the process.
Yeah. And then to be able to take that and extend it to your kids and help them do that same thing, and realize you have the power to create the life you want. You have to find your purpose. You have to find the way you want to impact the world, and grow from that. I agree 100%. So what was the most surprising mindset shift that you had to make to try and create success as an entrepreneur?
I think it went from the mindset of other people are the people who do these kind of things, to I am a person who can do these kind of things. And everyone who's started anything is a person with an idea, and they have to be willing to go through the process to figure out the journey and make it successful. And I think just believing in myself that I am a person that can do that. I am a person who believes in myself and can learn and grow and be willing to take the setbacks and learn from my experience. But I think just that shift of like, this is something other people do, and oh no, they make things, or they create things, or they're just the CEOs, or like in the school system even. I mean, we go through teaching, and it's like we're not necessarily doing the higher decision making. So we're really doing our best in what we can do, and instead of just using what we have, just creating something new based on what you believe is right and what you see a need, and just do it.
Thank you for that, because so many people, and I know Evan would agree with me, because we've talked to many people who are in corporate, right, or have jobs where a lot of those decisions and those tasks, those requirements have been taken care of for them, and they only have to focus on this thing here, and all the rest of that stuff they don't either know about or care about or know how to do. Someone else does it. And then once they see the opportunity that, no, I can do this other thing, many times they don't even take that leap. They might have an idea, but it's really scary to try and figure out how to make it happen when they've never been exposed to all those other things that have to happen. And they may not have as deep a passion as you did, or as important of a why as you did, but they still have the ideas, and they still have these opportunities that are coming to their mind, and they have the entrepreneurial spirit, so to speak. But there's all kinds of words I'm throwing out here that many of our audience have heard. The golden handcuffs are on, right? So they are being given a salary without all having to worry about all those other things. Right. So think about, or maybe share with us, how you are now opening up that thought process, that mindset for your own kids, to not have to be, they can choose that if they want. Obviously, we all know, being entrepreneurs, it's a heck of a lot easier to just go home at night and not think about this stuff and not be consumed by it, and have someone else take care of it. Right. But that doesn't mean that it feeds us as much, right? That we are not really fully invested in it. So, think about how you're going to help your kids start a little further along that road than you did.
Yeah. I really think that I've talked to my mom about this actually, and I talk to her about everything. I probably talk to her twice a day, and I just share like what's going on and all these new changes happening. And she jokes that she said, "You've always been like that. You've always been like that. You've always pushed the envelope on asking questions. Why is it like that? How does it work? You've always wanted to know more and not really just." I wouldn't say I wasn't an easy child, but I wasn't easily appeased in the sense of this is just the way it is. And I think that we all know inside of us when we have that, it's there and we don't always listen to it. And it took me to be in a situation where I knew I could trust myself that I could follow a field where I could make something better for other people. And I believed in that. And like you said, that's the why, but you don't always have the why to want to be pursuing a new venture, right? Sometimes it's like, I just want to do this and I think I can do it. But I think with my kids, it's really interesting because they're both very creative. My daughter is very artistic and my son is a lot more, like visual spatial, and he loves like puzzles and Legos and that kind of thing. But I see that in them. And I think that if we start to recognize those early signs of why and how, and we don't necessarily use that as a challenge to our authority, and we just can kind of foster those questions and, well, how do you think you can figure that out? Or what are the possibilities? I don't know. Why don't you see what happens? It's okay. Go ahead. And it's our job as parents to make sure that's within safe boundaries and age appropriate. But I think sometimes we get to this point with our kids where it's like, do what I say because I know, and I've been there and I know the right thing. And we forget that we're teaching them these life skills on how to be critical thinkers and how to think for themselves. And I think if we do that, which I tried to do that as a teacher, and I believed in that for my students too. I will give you the tools. I'm not going to do it for you. So I try to do that same thing with this new mindset of it's okay. There's a respectful way to challenge what's happening. And it's not by defiance, it's by asking the right questions. And, I hear that this is something you don't want to do. Why don't we talk about it and just have a conversation? And that's the shift for me, that what I'm doing with them at home is really what I'm learning from all these amazing workshops and this amazing experience I'm in right now with the Growth Factory. It's fantastic. But I'm getting to meet people that give me a different way of thinking. And if I can then give that to my kids, I think that'll help to build that for them.
I think that you learn, well, I know this, right? You learn more from failure than you do from success.
Absolutely.
100%. And so, but of course, the catch is you have to fail to, get the lessons. And I feel like a lot of people, especially people in like a kind of a caretaker role to kids, it's like you don't want them to fail ever. You want to be able to give them, you want to give them those lessons free,
Right.
and not have to have them fail. But the problem is you don't learn them that way. You have to learn by doing it yourself, even if you fail, and even if they're going to fail, it still just has to happen.
Right.
I feel like.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that a really big eye-opening experience that happened to me recently was at one of our mentor workshops with Hernani Alves with his book on balanced accountability. I have not read the whole thing yet. We just had this workshop last Monday, but it's so incredible to hear his story on how when you care so much and you want things to go so well, you want to control every aspect of that, because that means you care, right? Like, I'm going to tell my kids what to do, how to do it, when to do it, because I want the best for them. But what they're doing is they're following my orders without really understanding the process or learning or the why. And I'm not giving them the freedom to learn those lessons when the risk is low. Like, their childhood risk right now, they're not losing jobs. They're not out there in the world, where there's big, huge problems. These are like little problems. Like, okay, well, what's going to happen if you wear socks with your sandals out in the rain? Like, okay, you're going to find out that your feet get wet and you won't make that decision again. And that's just a silly example, but I think that it's hard to let people and things we care about watch that when we know that's probably not the best way to do it. But he made a big point on, always guiding, where's north, make sure you know where you're headed. And then the way you get there can be supported, but not necessarily controlled and micromanaged in a way where people can't think and learn for themselves. So that was big. And I applied that on a personal level at home too. I'm not really running a team of people, which I will definitely apply that when I get to that point. But applying that in just the way of working with people is huge, and our kids.
And that takes a certain amount of emotional maturity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To not be so married to your solution and be open to the possibility. Yeah, that the socks with sandals analogy is, we all, obviously that's an obvious one that we can see. The rain's going to get you wet, but there are so many things that happen and so many ways of doing the same thing, like stacking the dishwasher.
Right.
I mean, we think it's the way we do it. Right. So if we tell the kids, no, you put this here and this here and this here, and you have no other opportunities, they're going to find, they're going to, go in, and if they stack it crazy and things on top of each other, it's not going to get clean.
Right.
It's going to have that. But even the way I do it, I tried to say, stack the dishwasher. Here's the way I do it. You decide. And who knows what they come up with? There's all kinds of other opportunities and ways that they've figured out. That's just a simple analogy. But if you're not emotionally mature enough to say, to not be married to the way I do it because I said so. And that I know is one of Evan's biggest pet peeves, is anybody who says, because I said so, it's like, you've already lost me right there. I am going to fight you tooth and nail, because there's no way I'm going to do it just because you said so. There's no logic behind that. Right. If you're so married to that opportunity and that way of doing something, you close yourself off to growth.
Yeah.
I have learned more from my kids than anyone in the world. Yeah. Any classroom. Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Right. Incredible humans they are. And I've learned more from them than any college education I got ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just wait till they're in their 20s, and you're no longer talking about socks with sandals. Now you're talking about where are they going to live? What are they going to do? Should they take this opportunity? All the conversations you're having with your mom, you're going to be able to have with them and see the incredible people they become. It's amazing. Yeah. Anyway, Evan, you can talk about how much you really do not like that statement, because I said so.
Oh my gosh. I hate it. It's not how learning works. You know what I mean? It's really not how learning works. You can't learn a lesson from because I told you so. You know what I mean? That's not. It just doesn't work, especially with kids. I mean, I'm an adult, so if I'm saying that, imagine a 5-year-old or something like that. Especially with how many questions kids ask, it's like, no, they need to and should and deserve to know how things work and why they're being asked to do certain things. I feel like.
Sorry.
I thought it was mine.
It's actually my mom calling. That's funny. Good timing, Mom.
Yeah. She knew. Her ears were buzzing.
She did.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But I agree, Evan. I think that that's really important to remember. And in all of the stress we have as parents and adults, we feel like the kids don't understand. But I feel like my journey as a teacher has helped me to better understand that I have 30 kids coming in from different homes. They don't all go home and talk to each other about how they can make my day terrible. That's not what they're trying to do. They're not trying to challenge me and question me and be defiant. And they're kids, they're learning, their brains are developing. And if I don't give them the right guidance, obviously they won't know anything of what to do, but I also can't control their learning process to where I'm trying to push information into their head. That's not how it works. They have to see it, they have to feel it, they have to discover it. And I really think that ties back into what I decided to do, because I know how important that is for kids to have that experience. And not all kids get it in the school day. Not all teachers have the opportunity to do that. And I think as parents, if we believe in that idea that our kids need that interaction, even if it helps you to just communicate with your kids without the pressure of just sitting in a room and just saying, tell me about your day. Okay, well, maybe if we take out this fun little art project that's going to take us 15 minutes, the kids will start to open up about what happened at school today, or what they did and what their friends said, or maybe something that's bothering them. And I think there's a lot more to that we see as teachers at school that can show up in kids in unexpected areas. And if we don't really have the time to plan that, I can plan it for you and give you the tool to make that an opportunity for a conversation, a learning experience, or even just something you feel your kids may be interested in, or maybe they've said they're interested in and you want to try out. And I think that ties right back to that, because we don't always have that and see how they engage at school and interact. But it's a huge part that is really important at home too.
I got to say, I know that Evan and I have talked about this before. So I was home with the boys when they would come home from school. And when I picked them up from school, that was the time that they basically unloaded whatever was going on at school and talked about it. And we were able to share those ideas and those things that happened during the day. And a lot of the kids that would come over to our house whose parents worked and they didn't get picked up from school, and they would come over and hang out with us. Your product will actually provide, that was another thing that I didn't even think about, it would provide an opportunity for those parents who say worked and picked their kids up after school, or after school care. This might be an impetus for them to start that conversation, because once they leave school and they go into the next phase, their brain isn't on what happened at school anymore, because that was hours ago and that might as well have been weeks as far as they were concerned. But this would actually help start that conversation, to give maybe a vehicle instead of "how was your day?" Fine, as they're eating dinner and they're now on the next thing. That's a great way to open up that conversation and use some type of an activity to spur those memories and bring them up, to be able to help your kids grow, even if you're not there right after they get out of school.
Right. And I was fortunate enough to be working at my kids' school. So I had lots of intel on what was really going on during the day. So I was able to ask them questions like, well, what did you think about the assembly? Or how was learning about the missions today? And most parents don't have that. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what to ask, you don't know what to ask, right? Like, we don't know, we can't rely on the kids to say, well, at 9:30 today, when I was getting ready for snack, like, and they really do need to decompress from their day. And I feel like, if anything, what I'm doing could serve as almost like a bridge from school to home, and really understanding how to engage with your kids in a meaningful way in activities that they enjoy, but use that as an opportunity for whatever you want to get across to your kids. And maybe it's working on sharing. Maybe they're not being very nice with their siblings and you want to teach a sharing thing, but you can't sit and just lecture about sharing. We could use this as a tool to, okay, well, we're going to work together as a team. And why don't you be in charge of cutting these strips of paper, and you be in charge of getting the paint out? And I mean, that's a great opportunity to teach that. And it could just be like, okay, well, we want to just have no electronics today. Well, then it's like, well, then what do we do? What do you mean? What do we do? And so I just think it's really helpful in whatever is happening at home, or helping to create that connection from their life from school to home.
Wow. That's all I can say.
Well, I have a question that I want to ask you. We've been talking a lot about younger kids, right? And the lessons they learn, and a lot of strategies and tools around them. And so I know this is quite a ways away for you and your kids, but a topic that we like to talk about and ask in these conversations, especially with entrepreneurs, is thoughts around college for your kids. Um, do you plan on wanting to send your kids to college, or is it more of a you'll support them, and however whatever they want to do? Like, how important is it to you?
Well, I think it's probably going to give you an unexpected answer. As a teacher and someone who went through 7 years of college, I don't mean just to get a job as a teacher, but there is a lot that goes into the professionalism of teaching that is most people don't understand. So as someone who's been through a lot of trainings and college and all of that, I already talked to my kids about college in the way of future, right? Like, what do you want for yourself for your future? And what do you see yourself doing? And where are your interests? And my daughter had this conversation with me last week, and she said, we were talking about school with our friends about where we're going to college, and my friend so and so, she's going to go to UC Davis, and so is going to go to Santa Barbara, and so is going to go to Stanford. And I asked her, I'm like, well, why are you guys picking colleges, or what are you basing that on to pick these colleges? And she's like, well, I want to be somewhere by the beach, and I want to be somewhere where I can, be by the water, but, not more than 2 hours away from home. And, she's thinking about what her life looks like as an adult. And I think that's incredible. And I think with young kids now, they kind of assume that college is a part of that step. And it's not really until they get into those high school years where they really realize like there is other options. And if you want to be an entrepreneur and you think college would help you and you want to go learn about business or learn about, whatever field you're interested in, I think that's great. Do I expect them to go to college? I would expect them to take the steps they need to grow in order to be successful. And if that was college, I think in most cases, if you want certain careers, college is required. Like if you want to be a physician, if you want to be a vet, if you want to be have other technical career, you kind of need to go down that path. That's just, if you want to be a teacher, you got to go to college. And I will support them and guide them. But again, I want to listen to where they think they need the support. My son has gone back and forth. Like I said, he's 7, but he's gone back and forth between wanting to be a construction worker. He wants to be a firefighter, and he wants to be build buildings, like skyscraper buildings. And I know behind all those careers what it would take to get to each one of those steps. Now, firefighting may not require college. Construction may not, unless it was like construction management or project management. But I think like that's a journey that they're going to figure out. So will I support them in that decision? 1000%. I will give them all the information I have. But as far as, saying you're going no matter what, and you're not going to do anything in life before you finish, the only thing I advise that they do before is starting a family. Is very challenging if you plan to go through college, which is what I did. I had my kids through college. So hope that answers your question. But
Yes, very much. That's honestly one of the best answers I think we've gotten, to be honest, about that whole college experience, especially hearing your example about what your daughter was saying, like, oh, I want to be close to the beach, but, not more than 2 hours away from home. It's funny because those are all lifestyle decisions. Those aren't college decisions. You don't need to go to college to experience that.
Right, to be by the beach.
Yeah, to by yeah, right, yeah.
From home.
Yeah, she's just describing who wants her life to look like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is, I think that's the question that people should be asking themselves, not what do I want to like be when I grow up? It's what do I want my life to look like? Right. And that's what she wants her life to look like. And so maybe college, helps that, but then what happens after college, right? Like then you're just at the same place you were before, you got to figure it out. So what if you start a business and get a nice apartment by the beach? that's, 2 hours from home. So I think, yeah, I would like your answer, and I like the examples that you gave, and I think that was very interesting and one of the best answers I think we've gotten on the show so far, I would probably say, actually.
Thank you. I think
Yeah.
I told her she had me look up, well, I actually told her to look up colleges within 2 hours of Sacramento, and she was looking at Santa Cruz, UC Santa Cruz. And I said, oh, I looked at UC Santa Cruz when I was looking at colleges. And I said, their mascot's the banana slug. She goes, oh, and I don't want to go there. But I think it is funny that, this generation is just kind of geared towards after high school, you go to college, and where are you going to college? Not necessarily if you're going to college, but if you wanted to start a business, I think that would take a very, mature thinking high school student to really understand what that meant to start a business, grow a business, and hopefully they have the right supports in place to do that. Because as I'm learning in my 30s, it's a lot. And not to say I couldn't have done it in my 20s, but going through college with like one avenue of like, show up at this day. It's like the example of the corporate world, right? Like, show up at this day, do these assignments, and you get your diploma. And for me in my 20s, that was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. But it took me living in that environment of like, okay, do this, do this, do this. And me being, like I said, always having that voice inside that questioned and wondered, and to say, well, why is it like this? And why is this so hard? And why isn't this better? And I was the teacher at the staff meeting, like, so can I clarify what you're saying? And everyone's like, okay, we're ready to go home. Stop. But I think it's interesting that they just kind of go through school assuming that that's a part of their life. And she right now wants to be a nurse, which I think is really cool. I think as her mom, I know her pretty well. I think she would be a fantastic screenwriter, movie director. And I know that that's a really challenging field to get in. I mean, I know that that'd be like, okay, go to film school, super niche market, go to LA. Like, I don't want her to move to LA, but I see her personality and she's very creative, and she's also very like self-driven, where she can get an idea and a plan and she's like, this is good. She's also a fantastic writer. So yeah, I mean, if that becomes her journey, we'll just have to make the right choices based on where she sees her life.
And that is even that career is changing in today's climate with YouTube and Twitch and TikTok. And I mean, she doesn't have to go to film school anymore. And if she wants to, yeah, right. Go. But I mean, that's not the traditional path does not have to be her path anymore with the opening of the internet and other online, education platforms and publication platforms. How many careers, Justin Bieber was one of the first, were created without that traditional path. And so the opportunities are there. And I know, like with Evan, I love what you're talking about, Jessica, because what you're doing is setting your kids up. You said you would do this, you did this in your 30s. So you're basically setting your kids up to have those opportunities from the get-go. Mm-hmm. To choose that from the get-go. Yeah, they're still going to have to experience things and fail and do all those things, but they're going to know their world is going to be opened up to possibilities from the beginning. And I know with Evan is one of the most laid back people you will ever know. He is so calm. I think he would be an incredible teacher. He actually is an incredible teacher, but not in the traditional sense, in a more coaching sense. And when he came into those ideas with high school, okay, what am I going to do when I grow up? Or all my friends are out getting part-time jobs or full-time jobs. How am I going to earn money for my own money? And I mean, Evan can tell that story way better than I can when he was faced with that choice. He tried all those paths, but he luckily had something already that he could fall back on where he didn't have to go out and work at a job that he really didn't like and was terrible and awful. And he could make money in his pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, thanks to her. I mean, she got me started on editing her podcast when I was in high school. And then when everybody was starting to make more money and get, part-time jobs and stuff, she gave me the very exciting idea to edit podcasts, but for other people, and then, charge them more money for it. So I did that, and then, fast forward to today. And it's never too late, right? It's never too late. Someone, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, shouldn't feel bad or anything like that if they want to turn their life around, do something that they are passionate about instead of a dead-end job that they don't like. But at the same time, it's very exciting to hear that you are setting your kids up to have those thoughts now, so they don't have to spend 15 years as a corporate drone doing something that they hate. You know what I mean? Like, they can get right out of high school, they can be like, yeah, I'm not, why would I do the traditional path when it sucks, and instead I could go live by the beach and do this thing that I love. Especially because I'm 23, and so I have a lot of friends who are fresh out of college, and I don't think any of them are actually doing any work related to what their degree was. My mom right here, she's not doing anything related to her degree. Right? I think my dad's the only person I know of who's actually doing anything related to what he studied in school. So it's like, I see this and I'm like, what is even the point? And then it's like, oh, well, you can get a degree because you have a higher chance of getting a job. And I'm like, okay, well, yes, that's true. But just a random job, you're going to keep throwing the dice and try to find anybody that's going to give you money to do something. Like, do something that you love is my philosophy. And so it's really awesome to hear that you're setting your kids up for that now, so they don't have to wait until they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s to realize that life is whatever you can make it. It's not what everyone tells you to do, because you're going to die at some point.
Yeah.
And there's no point in spending all that time doing some job you hate just for money, when instead you could be living life. And so that kind of leads us, I think, into the last question, which we like to end with on the podcast. And that is by asking, if you were to die tomorrow, what would be the entrepreneurial legacy you would leave behind for your kids to use as they potentially grow into entrepreneurs themselves?
I think what I would want them to live by would be to believe in benefiting the world around them and have that benefit to their world be in a deep and meaningful way. And if they are able to believe in what they're doing, that they're benefiting the world around them in a deep and meaningful way, then they should be brave enough to act on it and don't give up.
Right?
If living by the motto, we can, if we do what? And we find solutions, don't make excuses, and don't give up.
Yeah,
Courage.
that's it.
Yep. Courage and perseverance, and dare to act, and then trust it works and keep doing it.
Yep.
That's perfect.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for coming on the podcast. For people who are interested in you and what you do, where can they find out more about you?
They can go to my website, which is makingmemoriesbox.com, and they can view all the items in the shop that are available. And there's some really fun stuff in there for the holidays. So welcome to try it out there, and be happy if you have questions. They can send me an email, and it's Jessica@makingmemoriesbox.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, again, for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm telling you, everybody go check it out, because all of the stuff she's doing is really incredible. And I'm so honored to know her. So thank you for coming on the show and sharing really some absolute pearls of wisdom. I can't wait to see the audiogram that we create out of this episode, Evan. Wow. There's going to be a lot of choices. What do we focus on to showcase the knowledge bombs that just were dropped? Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Entrepreneur Power. Hopefully you came away with valuable tools you can use in your business, life, and relationship with your kids. If you want to hear more about our mission, or if you want more insights into cultivating your parent entrepreneur power, join our movement to make entrepreneurship more accessible to parents and their kids at parentrepreneur.power.com.